This week, in the Leadership and Communication segment, the CISO Mindset, a strategic guide for aspiring CEOs and the boards, the top strategy to earn more respect at work, a leadership expert's proven method, the problem with mandating office presence without purpose, and more. In our second segment, we air a pre recorded interview from Octane 2024. Business Security Weekly starts now.
This is a Security Weekly production for security professionals by security professionals. Please visit securityweekly.com/subscribe to subscribe to all the shows on our network.
It's the show where we explore the business of security to improve the security of business. Your trusted source for actionable insights on leadership, communication, and innovation. Get ready for Business Security Weekly. Your customers' and employees' identities are your responsibility to keep safe. But who is helping you stay safe from identity-based threats? Identity is the key to getting security right. And with the right identity partner, so much more is possible for your business than you thought. From strengthening cybersecurity, to increasing revenue, to reducing inefficiencies and costs, Okta unlocks growth and new possibilities for its customers. Go to securityweekly.com/Okta to learn more about Okta and the company's commitment to leading the fight against identity attacks. If your organization is ready to enhance cyber resilience, we have important insights for you. The Level Blue Futures Report 2024 sheds light on how rapid computing changes affect IT visibility. Our research reveals that while IT leaders see positive outcomes, 85% acknowledge increased risk. In this report, we identify the barriers to cyber resilience, the challenges impacting cybersecurity, and the business context that reveal operational issues. You'll also discover what's on the horizon and 5 essential steps for prioritizing cyber resilience. Get your complimentary copy of this crucial research today by visiting securityweekly.com/levelblue. Cybersecurity, simplified. Let's talk about something that's becoming increasingly important for enterprise companies worldwide: cyber risk management. Traditionally, cyber risk has been managed manually in silos, separate from the business's core operations. The future is about getting real-time risk insights benchmarked against your industry peers through automation. And CyberSaint's CyberStrong platform is leading the charge. CyberStrong is not just another point solution. It's a revolutionary platform. It's a quantified top-down risk approach where your unique cyber risks inform C-suite decision-making to identify your top 5 cyber risks and the controls to mitigate them. Sign up for your free cyber risk analysis by visiting securityweekly.com/CyberSaint.
Welcome to Business Security Weekly. This is episode number 370, recorded October 28th, 2024. I am your host, Matt Alderman. Joining me for this news segment today is Mr. Jason Albuquerque. A little interesting weekend of football.
It was an interesting weekend. Hey, listen, the Patriots pulled one out. We beat the Jets. Not much to be proud of, but at least we won a game. The Browns had an upset over the Ravens. Holy crap, was that a game, right? And
this is what happens when you actually
Chicago. At least we're not Chicago, who got one ripped from a Holy Mary, right?
Oh yeah, wow.
Hail Mary in the end zone that gets tipped, and wow, they lose the game.
A crazy. Well, the Dallas blew it again because Dak threw another couple of picks.
Yeah.
But the Browns game's interesting to me because I'm not been a big Deshaun Watson fan. You bring in Jameis Winston, he looked great. Like the offense actually scored. And this is what Browns fans have been begging for a long time. Kind of like a saving grace when he got injured. It's like now we can see actually a real quarterback play.
I know. And you want to know what, though? KC's still undefeated, forced to be reckoned with. And let me tell you, the Bills,
the Lions
Bills
too.
played what they played their best, and the Lions romped Tennessee.
The Lions look so good. Oh, yeah. Dude, they look good. And all kinds in college football. Some big games is coming up this weekend. So we're just going to do articles this week because we got the pre-record right after this, Jason. So let's kind of dig into this one. So this first article, the CISO Mindset, a strategic guide for aspiring CEOs and the board members. I love this line. If you can't manage risks, you'll manage crises.
That's right.
We've been talking about how this is a risk management discipline. And here's a really good article that talks about, look, guys, you better start to manage this from a risk perspective.
100%. And at the end of the day, do you really want to be testing your business resilience during a crisis? Absolutely not, right? You want to make sure that you know the risks, you have that muscle memory on how to mitigate any type of issue that may come up. You guys have practiced it. You've had conversations and had roundtables and tabletop exercises, and you guys know the risk very, very well. So that way downtime and disruptions minimized. But you know what? If you haven't, it's going to be your ultimate test right there, right? So it's about the proactive stance. It's about that proactive stance.
Yeah. And this article, I like it because these are conversations I have often, right, with clients and prospects, and even our interview segments. Alignment to company goals and objectives is a key part. And in one of the things we've been talking about internally from a product perspective is, how do you align risk to objectives? If you do that well, you actually put yourself in a pretty good position as a CISO to actually align very quickly to the business, because all your risks are already aligned to business objectives that are aligned. The problem, Jason, I see is I don't see many people actually going through that exercise on how to align risk necessarily to business goals and objectives. And I still think there's a gap there that we haven't solved for yet.
Yeah, and part of it is the CISO fully understanding the business, right? Because some of the best education on how risks can align up to overall business goal and the mitigation of those risks can help move the needle is getting to be really close with those business unit leaders who have direct KPIs to those business goals, right? You have to learn their portion of the business. And if you can't learn their portion of the business, you're never going to be able to identify those risks. You're never going to be able to help move the needle. You don't do it by yourself. You do it with the rest of the organization, because those leaders have KPIs that align directly up to those business goals. It's about building that consortium of folks who can collaborate with you and you can work with to now identify and build plans to mitigate those risks.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. And I think that's some of the challenges that everybody has.
Yeah, they kind of cover it at a high level within the article, because it says, how persuasive are you? What's your emotional intelligence level? Well, you know what that says to me? How are you working with your peers and your colleagues, right? How are you going out there understanding where they're coming from and what their risk appetite is? And then that can roll upstream. So now you can have conversations with the CEO and the board. Pay attention and be patient. It's not about getting a solution right away. It's about that long journey, about understanding the business. So, the article nails it, right? It really nails that relationship building, emotional intelligence, aligning with the business, learning the business. So therefore you can, bring those risks and the mitigation of risks to show how you can move the needle for the business.
And it talks about even actually from a communication perspective of how to communicate that in a very clear, concise way, which again is important because again, who you're presenting to, they don't understand all the nuances and ins and outs of cybersecurity. They know there's some risks to the business. If you can articulate that very clearly and quickly, it helps you from a communication standpoint.
Oh, 100%. And the way you articulate it and have that and drive that message to one colleague may be a little bit different and maybe nuanced in a different way to another colleague. So let's say, your HR leader versus your finance leader. You may be delivering the same message, but you may have to present it a little bit differently.
Right. Exactly right. CISOs throwing cash at tools isn't helping detect breaches.
Don't say. I'm sure we can find 5 to 10 episodes of BSW that definitively we've said that for years now, right? I mean, are we just knowing now that blinky lights don't solve problems? I don't think so. Right?
I don't think so either. And so, Jason, it was interesting. I was on a call this morning, and I still hear the concerns around budgets and consolidation, right? Like we've been under this environment for a couple of years now, almost all of 23 into 24. We're seeing compressed budgets, trying to justify. And this is just another, I think, component of that is you can't just willy-nilly throw money at the problem. Even if you could, which you can't, it's not helping anyways. So what I'm starting to see, and I don't know if you see this on your side, is people are really trying to really look at their budgets. They're
Mhm.
really trying to decide where they might be overspending because there's still tremendous pressure on level of consolidation
Mhm.
and reduced spend.
Yeah, and where there's overlap, right? Where there may have been multiple tools and there's overlap in some of their feature, if not all of their feature functionality, right? And it's a shame that in prosperous times we aren't being intelligent with our spend, right? That's a shame, and ultimately now we're being forced into that because the economy is what it is right now. So we're having conversations around that consolidation and adoption of tools and overlap and making sure that we're spending our money wisely. We should be doing that all the time.
Right.
It shouldn't just be in prosperous times when we have money, right? Unfortunately, the old strategy was we have money, all right, let's spend our way out of this problem. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is eye opening, right? Spending your way out of this problem does not work.
No. And I think the challenge is for a lot of organizations, they keep saying they want to get back to the basics. I'm not even sure some people know what the basics are anymore.
I don't think so either. I don't think so either because hey, you know what? Are they doing asset management? Are they doing have they watched all of our Say Easy Do Hard episodes and learned from them? How about that?
Right. Exactly right. Because I hear it to I had a meeting with a board member of an organization today, and they're like, "Yeah, we're going back to basics." I'm like, "How are you prioritizing what those
Yeah.
basics are?"
Yeah. Can you articulate what those basics are?
Right. It's not a regulatory compliance issue because I'll tell you right now, you're going to waste a lot of time spending a lot of money and not getting necessarily back to the basics. So, how should organizations think about what are the basics for me? And again, it ties back to the first article. My opinion is if you don't understand your risks, how are you ever going to identify what your core basic control set
100%.
should be?
Yeah. And if you don't know what you have, you don't know your risks.
Right. You don't know your gaps, therefore,
That's
you don't
right.
know your blind spots. Yes. Oh, all over again. All right, I
I
had
know.
to.
I know.
Yeah,
It's like a
this next
revolving door conversation here.
uh, next week we'll talk about this again.
Yeah.
This next article I had to pull in. So Merlin Namath has been on this podcast a couple
Yep.
times. We actually did our last Say
Absolutely.
Easy Do Hard. So he's the new Chief Information Security Officer for the city of Denver. It was funny. I was getting ready to show him some of the stuff we were doing, and he didn't show up. And I figured something came up, and I
Yeah.
said, "No worry, we'll reschedule it." And so he apologized. He said, "By the way, the reason I was late is because I had to go to this interview." So it was I think it was his final interview
Nice.
when I was going to do this. But so now he's now um, the CISO for Denver,
Yeah.
the city and county of Denver. So he's got
Yep,
Denver
yep,
City
that's
and Denver
awesome,
County.
and
So yeah,
congrats to Merlin. That's awesome, and we've had folks on from the public sector, right? And I have all respect for folks who go into the public sector, municipalities, city government, because they are managing multiple types of businesses all in one business, and we've covered that, right? I mean, it's not just your traditional, tax authority and that type of stuff. There's public safety involved, there's highway divisions involved. There's so many code enforcement, so many pieces to the puzzle, and so many businesses to learn. So it's not like one business with multiple departments. It's like one big umbrella corporation with multiple businesses underneath it. So
yeah,
all due respect.
yeah. So I wish him luck. There's actually a couple articles. I
Absolutely.
just pulled this one in because he's talking about cyber security awareness. It's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. It's the 28th. It's the first time we've mentioned it on the podcast because we don't focus on it that much
Right.
on this show, anyways. But it was just interesting that it was an October article. So yeah.
Yep. Well, congrats again to Merlin.
Yes. Now we get into some interesting leadership articles. So the first one from Harvard Business Review: How to Avoid Strategy Myopia.
Mhm.
I love this article. I've been having
Me
some
too.
issues with my HBR subscription, so it's giving me some issues. But when I first read this article, I'm like, "Oh, this is really interesting," because if we think about strategy and we think about how to move our strategic decisions, this article helps you kind of get around some of the challenges with
Yeah.
strategy, right? And I thought it was interesting
Absolutely.
because I'm fighting with this a little bit in my day job, and so this was a really good kind of refresher on some of the challenges.
Oh, 100%. And you know, so many of us get caught up in the whirlwind and we think we're being strategic, but when you pop your head out from that little ostrich hole, you realize, oh, wait a minute, hold on. We're not being as strategic as we should be. We're not taking the chances, the risks from a business perspective. We should be, right? Because some of it is strategic risk that you have to take every once in a while. And at the end of it, you know, being able to pop your head up and really gut check yourself, like these items on this list do, it's good to do periodically. I would say these are things that you can take a look at quarterly and say, hey, wait a minute. Are we too stuck in the whirlwind? Are we too stuck in the day to day to keep the lights on? You know, and I love the first one where it says refuse false proxies, right? I took that one and I absolutely love it because there are times when things seem like it's the right direction. It's an objective, measured approach. But when you really pop your head out, you're going, wait a minute, hold on. This is the wrong direction. We should be taking a little bit more business risk here and realize that it's going to take some investment or a little bit of failure, a little bit of chance in order to allow us to move that needle to the next level. You know, I love that refuse false proxies piece.
Well,
I don't think enough people do that.
No, I agree. And number two hits home for me, right? Focus on their customer needs rather than what they currently produce. It puts you in this weird position, right? Where you're constantly chasing. And it's a struggle. When you're building a product or service, yes, customers are important and their needs are important, but there's also things that have to be enhanced in the platform to go drive new markets. And it's always a constant balance, Jason, of how much time do you spend maintaining certain features and capabilities, focus on the customer versus new things you have to do to go capture new markets. It's always a tight balance between those two. And especially in a startup like we are, the pressure's even more because you're constantly thinking through, well, do I go chase these customers and these customer requirements to keep them, or do I go build those new strategic offerings because that's where the market's going? And
and again, some of those customer needs may fall into those false proxies because how many times you sit back and say the customer doesn't even realize they need this. Can you imagine if we put this in front of them and now all of a sudden this epiphany moment for our clients? Like there are instances where that happens. The customer doesn't even know this is something they need.
Yeah. And we have to sometimes tell them this is what they need.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Guide them in the right direction, you know? And one of the other ones in here I think is something important for people to focus on as well is making sure you have the right people in the room to make the decisions, right? The right stakeholders. So I think the way they worded it is you can't compromise your way to an elegant strategy, right? Make sure you have the right people in the room. You're having the right conversations with the right people at the right time. That's kind of my little add in there because you may not, strategically, it may not be the right move to have everybody in the room at the same time. You want the right people in the right room at the right time because not everybody's going to take the message the same. So I think that's something to think about.
And I like small baby steps in solving bigger problems, which is what I have to do from a product perspective. There's this thing called minimally viable product for a reason, folks.
MVP.
You get it out and then you iterate.
That's right.
When you look at my roadmap, you'll see like, oh, we're going to do whatever feature. Yeah, it's like 7 phases. Because,
Yeah, that's an enhancement cycle 7.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's way down there. Customers don't like to hear that though, Jason. They wanted it yesterday. So, you know. Anyway. Oh, gosh. Top strategy to earn more respect at work, leadership, experts proven method. So this one kind of ties in the strategy conversation with the leadership conversation a little bit in how to gain more respect. And I think this is obviously an important thing for CISOs as they continue to try to earn respect with the other business leaders. And I love the first one, give.
Sure.
How many times does the CISO take and not give?
Right. And I mean, you know my leadership style, right? I love being that leader who serves the rest of the company, the rest of the team, our clients, right? Having that service focus. And listeners of the show have heard me say all the time, trust is the foundation of every relationship. It absolutely is. Well, the best way to earn trust is to give, is to respect, is to put in effort. Offer your time, your expertise, your opinions, your constructive feedback, right? And just give to the organization. Be that service type leader where you're serving the rest of the organization, and good things will come back.
Yes, absolutely. The second tip here is resist. Resist lots of things. Resist negativity. Resist, right? Just resist. And it's kind of against human nature a little bit, right? Sometimes we only we want to, right?
Totally. And,
fight back.
and for me, I put things in order. So even the give thing, I put in order. I put respect, effort, time, opinions, constructive feedback, praise, right? So this, I did the same thing. I put it in order, priority for me, and I put gossip at the top. And here's why. There's a reason why I put gossip at the top. It's so easy, human nature, to get caught up in it. What that does in turn is breed negativity. Right? So it breeds that negativity. So gossip is the one to look out for, because you could be literally sitting around having a great conversation. All of a sudden it spins into something that's gossip and then breeds negativity and turns into something else. So I put it in that order: gossip, negativity, and then taking credit, right? You don't want to be a leader who collaborates with another leader and then all of a sudden, you're the champion. You're the one who did it all. You don't want to be that person, right? You'd rather give credit where credit is due.
Yeah. Now, how did you reorder exude?
So number one is, in I would always put this there, authenticity. Be you. You have to be you, number one, right? And then secondly is compassionate accountability. You have to be accountable for what you do, and you have to have empathy, and you have to do it in a compassionate way. From there starts to breed the things like professionalism and transparency, and then confidence and collaboration, right? Those are the next three. Either one of them I could kind of weave in and out, but top is authenticity, and then that compassion and accountability.
Yeah. I'm a huge transparency believer, right? That you have to be transparent, because transparency is a way to build trust, which ties back into parts of the other parts of this article, right? And so it is pretty high on my list, because it's part of being authentic. Because for me, authenticity and transparency kind of go hand in hand for me, right?
So
because
and so just so you can follow my thought process, why I put it down a little bit further. There is constructive transparency, and there's transparency that can be destructive, right? So I think it's an art. There's an art to transparency here. And the ones before it, authenticity, compassion and accountability, and the professionalism expertise, feed that knowledge of being able to say, all right, this is the right place to be transparent, or it's the wrong room, wrong time. Right. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I put it down a little bit, because I saw those others feeding into the strategy of your transparent, right? Your strategy for transparency.
Makes sense. I always love the way you reorder these articles. So.
Thanks. Well, it's just, I think through it. I try to think through it in, what items help the other items, can feed the other items, that items are dependent on to be successful. So, I like that pecking order.
Right. Interesting. Another article from Harvard Business Review: what the best leadership teams do right.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good article. I mean, at the end of the day, right? I mean, there's things that you need to be doing as a leader, but I think it bubbles down to your team being that example that you set, right? Because at the end of it, you're a leader. You're the leader at the top of a department, the top of a business unit. That type of strategy, that type of interaction, that type of collaboration has to be team wide. It needs to be something that just driven down. It needs to be a culture within your team. Otherwise, you're failing as a leader. And if you don't have that right level of connection to the team, they are literally offsets of your focus, of your strategy, of your attitude. They are extensions of you in the leadership that you provide. So I think it's extremely important for leaders to set that right example and make sure that their teams are following suit, right? And hold them accountable too. I mean, at the end of the day, you have to hold your team accountable too.
And so now you know why I ordered the articles the way I did,
Yeah, right,
because the previous article kind of leads into this article from a
right.
culture team perspective, right? So
Yeah,
yeah.
100%. Yeah.
All right, this last article is interesting. The problem with mandating office presence without
I
purpose.
know.
And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is great because we've seen this, right? We've seen this
Mhm.
kind of this shift in remote to back on back in the office, and a lot of people like not wanting to go back in the office. And I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Like
Mhm.
mandating office presence, but without a purpose, to just because. Now I can
Why?
see why yeah, exactly. Why there's so
Yeah,
much
I mean,
like angst
in all
around this.
honesty, it's holding leaders accountable for the decisions that they're making, because we talked about this during COVID. The cat's out of the bag. It's never going back to the way it was, ever, ever, ever. And we had long conversations around this, right? The cat is out of the bag. It's not going to go back. And what's happening now is that as employers are starting to get a little bit more power, because we see the job market now, right? The employer has the power now. Now they're starting to shift those mandates back that they wanted in place. But you want to know what? The employees are still pushing back and saying, why? Explain to me why. Why should I drive an hour into the office when I could have been productive an hour ago by working from my home office? Instead, I sit in traffic, not productive, maybe take a phone call, but I could be way more productive for this company if I was literally walking up to my office and started working right away. And in many instances, walk early. And I love the way they coined this. If you're not strategic about it, you have the zookeeper mentality.
Yeah.
I love that.
And I love how they lay out the pros and the cons.
Yeah.
Right? Because they're right. Facilitating collaboration and building team cohesion and all those things are very, very important, and I think are done better in person. Even to the point where, one of the things I see from a sales perspective is we just got to get back in. We got to get back into like work, like meeting with clients and
Yes.
getting back face to face, right? And there's a reason
Absolutely.
for that. I fully get that, right? But then it talks about the pitfalls of that zookeeper mentality,
Yeah,
right?
right.
And yeah, uh-huh.
Yeah, exactly. And I love the way that they go through shifting to that value-based office culture, right? Number one, as a company, as a leadership team, define what the office role means. What does it mean to be in the office? Is it a space for us to collaborate, to convene, to get FaceTime and maybe have a little bit more social connectivity than we would being remote? There's value there, right? But you have to define that. You have to be able to educate the staff as to the why, right? Empower the teams to make decisions. Hey, if one department wants to have a full department in office once a month, you know what? Create an environment that they can do that, right? Be flexible with your hybrid approach. If you have folks who need to travel and fly into the office, to be able to have that FaceTime, make accommodations for that. Make it a little bit easier for them to be able to travel into the office and stay. Make sure you have hotels or a relationship with hotels nearby, so they know when people show up, they get a good experience. We have to be thinking about those things now. It's not as easy as a light switch.
No,
You're
it's
in because I
not.
say so.
Yeah, well, it's like I brought my engineering team. We all went into Boston
Yep.
back in September. We had to coordinate that, right? Like,
Yeah.
I got people all over the country now, but we wanted everybody together. We wanted to spend time
Right.
working through kind of our roadmap, what we want to do. We made it a heavy team event, so
Yeah.
we went to a Bruins game. We just did a bunch of stuff. You
Yeah.
have to plan those out, and they're not cheap, by the way, because you're flying everybody in. You got hotels
That's
and all
right.
that other stuff, but the value of being able to do that and having
Right.
done that was
Yeah.
immeasurable. Like it's
Absolutely.
awesome because now everybody's gotten to meet each other. They haven't seen each other. I don't think the entire engineering team had been together for a year and a half before that.
Wow. And that's one of those things that now you take that back and now you use that as promotional material for the rest of your organization. Look what the engineering team did. We all got together, committed to meet in person, flying from all over the country took the time to spend time together, the well thought out events and things we did. Look at the outcome here. Everybody else should be jealous. You guys should be doing it too, right? That's the underlying tone of it is, that's how you start to promote that FaceTime and say, look what the engineering team, look how successful that 2-3 day period was. And it was worth all the effort to fly in and get hotels and, do all the excursion type stuff.
Yep. That was the purpose and it worked.
Love it. I love it.
Yes. Jason, always a pleasure. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to take a quick break and then air a pre-recorded interview from Octane 2024. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next week. This is Security Weekly.